confession that you're my obsession. You're pulsing through me. The blood is rushing and I am trusting you'll come save me. My knees are feeling weak. Your body's close to me. I want you to come rescue me.
Hey guys, how's it going? Just going to do a quick update video of where the car's at the moment. As you can see, we've completely finished the exhaust system, the actual manifold, and we've got the twin turbo set up now. It's basically set up as a sequential turbo setup. So the small one kicks in first, which is the GTX 2860 here, and then once that one provides about 14 pounds of boost, controlled by the two 60mm wastegates, which is down here, one down there, one down right in front of us here, which is going to divert all the exhaust gas. Instead of dumping that out the back of the car, we're going to run that back into this pipe, which is on the inlet side of the exhaust housing for the 3076 turbo, which is the original turbo which I use for the dyno printout sheet on the Facebook page. And the only thing I've changed is the exhaust housing, which has changed to a V-band clamp setup, which is a hell of a lot easier to take on and off, and it's actually a larger exhaust housing. It's the largest one for that turbo. So it's, the old one was a 0.8, 0.82, 0.83 I think it was, and this is the Garrett's new 1.01 exhaust rear housing. So this provides another 14% more airflow over my old exhaust housing. So instead of running 30 pounds of boost on this motor to get about 376 kilowatts, I'd probably only have to run 27 pounds of boost because the exhaust housing is flow the extra amount of air through it. So yeah, so that's pretty much where it is at the moment. I've got the dump pipe done, got a little screen pipe done on the wastegate. This wastegate here is to control the overall boost pressure on the large turbo, and the whole system basically is to control the actual boost going into the car. So that's what the boost control will be connected to. Other than that, really this setup is to try and gain a lot of low down power, which is what I lacked a lot from the previous time I had on the dyno, which I haven't got any video footage unfortunately because I just had too many issues on that day. So wish I did have some footage, just run around too much. So this setup basically with the flow charts and Garrett's site, I spent probably about a week trying to nuddle this out and work it out how it's all going to work and how it's going to flow and etc, etc. Basically it comes down to is this turbo showing me that on my old dyno chart, which was with the old intake manifold, the old exhaust manifold, the old intercooler setup, that this turbo could spool up and get 14 pound by about 3000 RPM. So basically this turbo required about 16 pounds of airflow to achieve basically 14 psi, and that's around 3000 RPM on the old motor setup, like old intake and stuff like that. So at 14 pound we add on top of that, because now that's what the turbo can pump into the motor, we get about 32 pounds of airflow. On Garrett's site with the large exhaust housing, this one only requires about 26 pounds of airflow. So once this small turbo basically winds up to 13-14 pounds of boost, this turbo's got way more air than it needs to provide whatever boost pressure you want on the actual motor itself. So we could see 30 pounds of boost basically almost instantly at 3000 RPM. It could actually be a little bit quicker with the new intake manifold and the larger exhaust manifold header pipes. Basically, the old pipe diameter on the old turbo manifold was 1¼ inch, and I basically sort of had a look at the intake side, and I was running basically 2¼ inch on these pipes. Before it was 2½ inches. Dropped it down for a bit more airspeed. So with 2¼ inch inlet pipes, I thought, well, it's a no sort of brainer really just to throw 2-inch pipes on the exhaust and try and throw as big as you can, because all the air's hot and it's expanded, so you still want that full flow as best you can. So we got 2-inch exhaust pipes basically off of each cylinder. It runs into a nice big merge right down into here, then collected directly into the wastegate, so the air is really more directly towards the wastegate than it is to the small turbo once everything opens up and starts to breathe, once the big turbo comes on the boost. So hopefully this setup's going to work, because I can't really find anything on the net to show that it's really been done and be achieved, but everything looks like it's going to work, everything else looks like it's going to flow, so hopefully it's all going to work. That's pretty much it really. The only thing that was really interesting with the flowcharts was that with the, let's say the large turbo, if I didn't run the small turbo, just run it like a normal single turbo setup, the lag on this turbo would probably be around 5.5 grand because of the bigger exhaust housing. So what's interesting is that once this small turbo spins up at about 3000 RPM and gives us 14 pounds of boost, which should then be enough airflow flowing through the motor to make the large turbo instantly come on boost, because it's got more air than what it needs. So it'll probably be more like 13 pounds is where it's really going to start cranking up. In between 3000 RPM and 5500 RPM, this large turbo shouldn't be a restriction, you know, because the way a turbo works for it to come on lag is to create exhaust back pressure. That exhaust back pressure then is transferred from the exhaust housing through the shaft onto the compressor side, which then can transfer that pressure onto the inlet side, and that's how you pressurize your turbo setup. What's interesting is that I'm not going to have sort of any restriction to about 5,500 RPM. Neither I'll have enough airflow at 3000 RPM, because the small turbo has provided that boost pressure on the motor, which can then have that amount of air flowing through the motor. So it's going to be really interesting in between 3000 RPM and 5,500 RPM for the sake of power and torque that it's going to make. It's going to be really interesting because the exhaust pressures are probably almost going to be 1-to-1. That's probably something that's not looked at a real lot, is the exhaust pressure versus the inlet pressure. A turbo setup has to have more exhaust pressure to make intake pressure. Yeah, you've always got to have that little bit more to make that pressure on the intake. So it's one little trick that I'm trying to do at the moment, is to try and see if I can lower the exhaust back pressure in between the turbo and the cylinder head as much as I can, so I can get it more to 1 psi exhaust pressure to 1 psi intake pressure. Because before I could have been running 30 pounds of inlet pressure on the motor or boost, but on the exhaust side in between the head and the large turbo, you know, you could be running 35-40 psi of exhaust back pressure. So this is probably something that I'm trying to look into with this setup, is to try and lower as much as I can with using such big pipes. And yeah, basically, yeah, that's pretty much it really. It's just to try and get everything as big as I can, just let it breathe on the exhaust side. I think that's what was really restricting it a lot as well. For the amount of boost that we run, I thought I would have got a bit more power out of it than what I did. So there's still a lot of tuning to do. There's still a hell of a lot of tuning to do actually with the motor. But all that we done on that day was basically we got the air fuel ratios at a safe level, and then we just added boost with the turbo just to get us close to where we wanted to be, which was 400 kilowatts, which is the goal, which is sort of my name, Style Slider 400. 400 meant 400 kilowatts. So really that's what I wanted to do. Basically the exhaust side is probably more just as crucial as what's on the inlet side, so I really just wanted to try and look at that and fix that up. So hopefully it works. There's been a hell of a lot of hours and a lot of effort to try and make this even possible. So let's see how we go in future times. It's pretty much now to start ripping the motor out and get this thing, get some new head studs in this thing, because it's still got friggin' standard head studs in it. I don't know why. So take that out and get them changed over, and hopefully from there it's just starting to add and fabricate everything else. Got to do a whole new intercooler setup and pipe work for that, and I'm still going to have to run a bypass valve from the large turbo, which will bypass the inlet side of the small turbo. That'll be later on. You'll be able to see how that sort of works later on. It's just going to use a turbo actuator and a throttle body, so it's still in the works at the moment. So that's where the car's at the moment, and hopefully you like what you see, because I certainly do like what I see. Never thought I'd have the idea of putting two turbos on a little C18 four banger. So now it's going to be interesting, and it should work. Actually, looks like it's actually going to work. A lot of things I've seen, it's great. You've got two turbos on there, but they might not work. So everything's there. It looks like it's going to flow the air on the exhaust side. So fingers crossed. It's going to be pretty impressive once we get the old dyno video up. So yeah, keep updated. I'll keep you up to date with the Facebook and that, and hopefully we'll make another video soon with it on the dyno. Cheers.